Hello, everybody. Today I'm joined by the wonderful, beautiful Pamela Horton, a woman that has been introduced to me by Ankush, our coach. And I wanted to start us off with sharing who Pamela is for me. We had two interactions so far in seeing each other. The reason why I reached out to you was to ask you about your coaching journey and ask you a little bit about how you build your practice through service. And this little time that I spend with you so far has been watered by service and by your stand for service. It struck me how you reached out yesterday. The way you did that, I felt it was so different from what I usually experience in checking in with someone like, hey, tomorrow our meeting is set. And I think you said something around, is everything there? How could I support you with what's happening tomorrow? So I felt you not only thinking about yourself, but already about the meeting, about me, about the whole thing. And I could see that in the interactions that we had, being present at all times. So I deeply appreciate that. And Pamela, what I know of you is you're a coach yourself. You went from a more, I'd say like more the traditional marketing based approach towards a through conversation and being of service approach to building your business and running your practice. So I give it over to you to maybe say a couple of more words about who you're being and what you're up to.
No, thank you, Maurice. It's a pleasure to be here. And as I mentioned before we started, it really is an honor to share this time with you and the students and other coaches, whoever listens to this, right? So who I am being in my journey. Actually, I'm surprised to hear you also say that how I approached you yesterday is different from what you've experienced before. That was nice feedback to receive. So thank you for that as well. My coaching journey has been a unique one. It started years ago. I've been coaching since 2011, and I went the route of online marketing and becoming an online coach. And the certifications and the schools that I went to was very hyper focused on becoming a celebrity first. And what I mean by that is, write a book, have a podcast. It was not about being the best coach you could possibly be. It wasn't about being of service. It was about generating an income. And that spoke really well to my ego back then, including the celebrity status type of mentality. It spoke really well to my ego back then. And I tried it. I attempted it. I worked with it. I spent tens of thousands of dollars on programs and experiences, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. And I actually grew really angry and frustrated with the process. And it's not that it's bad. It's not that, so I don't want to put a stake in the ground and say going that route is terrible. And, because if there's a combination and that it's not about putting anything down, this is just the experience that I had. For me back then, and even in pockets over the time since 2011, it was about earning an income, getting money, getting clients. And even the language that I'm using, getting, is just it doesn't feel good to me when I hear myself say that or when I say it. And I stepped away from all of it. When something isn't adding up for me, I subtract myself from the equation. And so I left everything. I dropped all of the process. I dropped the relationships. I walked away from everything that I had known for several years while building my practice. And prior to becoming a coach, I was a social worker and worked with adolescents and families for about 12 years. And in between that and becoming a coach, I also was recruited and worked for an insurance company, an insurance carrier. And I was in marketing and in sales and did very well. And I generated many leads for the sales teams and was very successful at that. And so when I left the online coaching world, I went back to my grassroots and just started networking and developing and creating relationships again the way that I once did it. And then the idea came to me, I really wanted to just be the best coach I could possibly become. And so I poured everything I had into learning even more about myself. And it's an ongoing journey, thank goodness, because I really am a life learner and love the process of learning about behavior and really what makes me tick. Because when I have that great understanding, it helps me be even a better coach for others. And that was between, I would say, 2013, 2014, up until last year. I built my practice on my own. I didn't even work with a coach. I did it all by myself. And I knew that I had taken myself as far as I could and wanted to go deeper, but I wasn't able to because I didn't have that mirroring or I didn't have a coach to help me do that. And so I decided to hire a coach, and I'm grateful that Ankush's path and mine crossed, and we started working together last year. And when he hired me, he mentioned to me that I was in the top 15% of coaches worldwide in terms of the salary that I was making. And that felt really great. And I was at the top of my game and had lovely clients, a lovely practice, but something was still missing for me. It was very transactional, actually, when I really, if I'm to be really honest with you and everyone who's listening, it was still very transactional. And when I hired Ankush, it was almost within like a week where everything stopped. And what I mean by that is I built my practice after leaving the online coaching world through word of mouth and networking and again, creating relationships. And when I started working with Ankush, everything stopped. If it was not for my existing clients, I would not have made any money last year at all. And he and I have only been working together for a year. But the referrals stopped coming in. Some clients stopped renewing. And I'm super blessed and extremely grateful for a high retention rate when it comes to clients. But if it wasn't, like I said, for those existing clients, I would not have made any money. I would not have lived in terms of, I would not have been able to make my payments in terms of bills even. And that scared the crap out of me, to be completely honest. I mean, that was such a scary time. And the reason why that happened was because I had to unlearn how I was being and who I was being, or actually learn who I was being in any given moment and unlearn it, unpack it, and relearn a new way of being of service. Because I was being of service. I was helping people. I was giving of my time and my resources, but it was very superficial. And I didn't know that it was superficial until that kind of came up and hit me when no new business was coming in. And so the journey has been very interesting to get to the place where I am today. And thank goodness through coaching with Ankush and what he's been able to share with me and the things that I've learned from him and the books that I've read. And by the way, during that time when I say to you, I built my coaching practice on my own, it was from rereading The Prosperous Coach over and over again by Steve Chandler. Over and over again, I kept reading that book. And it just kept putting me in a place of gathering and creating relationships to be able to be of service. But it still didn't click until I started working with Ankush.
Pamela, that was you started us off powerfully already, like taking us through the journey of your transition. And I feel like there were many points that you touched on throughout what you shared. And I give a little bit more background why I wanted to have a conversation or this interview with you, because as we see coaches, like when we start out, at least that was for me, we see other coaches or we read from other coaches like Steve Chandler, or we see Ankush, or we see Steve Hardison, or whoever it might be that we can see is doing very well, right? And then we hear them share about being of service, and we hear them say things like, just connect with people, just do this, right? It's like, it can seem a little bit far off, right? It can seem a little bit unreachable for us. So I love that you can share from this just happened last year, right? It's not like 10 years ago when I was starting out as a coach. It's just, this was last year and I was getting scared about not making money, not having new clients, right? And that speaks very well to what happens sometimes and what I can see happening with people that I'm in contact with, or even with myself. Like when we unlearn certain things that we learned before, like our winning strategies for creating clients, and we look in this direction of service. And I'd be curious to hear your definition on what service means for you today, because I don't know how it is for you. For me, it's a constantly evolving word, but I'd be curious to hear what it means for you today, how we unlearn things and things stop working. And I'd be curious to hear, what do you say service means for you today, and what this transition was from the things that you stopped doing to maybe what you're now doing, or what you learned in this process of going through that phase, not getting new clients in.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I agree with you. Being of service, that term and the experience of it in and of itself, for me currently, is ever evolving as well. It's so deep, and it's okay if we don't connect with it already. It's okay if you're not getting it, because you will if you stay on the path and continue. So I want to acknowledge that it is an ever evolving concept and experience. And I also want to mention the breaking down or unlearning, and that things were not working and how I wasn't earning or attracting an income last year. It has to happen. Like, it's part of the process. At least it was for me. And when you're starting new, or when you're learning something new, there almost needs to be a breakdown in order for you to shore up the foundation yet again, so that you can build on top of that foundation with the building blocks of consistency and taking action. So being of service to me right now, today, especially, actually before before I answer that, I have to make the comment about self-love too. It's all, connecting with people. It seems so vague at times. What does it really mean to connect with people? What does it really mean to go deeper? What does it mean to love or even have self-love? What does that really mean to somebody? And so I just want to throw that in there because it's part of being of service for me anyways. And so being of service, it's taking me out of the equation. It's not, for me right now, it's not about being concerned about what I need. It's not being concerned about whether or not someone is going to like me, how someone's going to perceive me. It's really literally removing me out of the equation and placing my focus on the other individual, paying really close attention and being in the present moment as best as I possibly can be to hear exactly what that individual is saying, no matter who it is, whether it's someone at the grocery line, whether it's the cashier themselves, if someone is frustrated. I'll give a quick example. I like to, when I'm standing in line, and if a cashier or anybody that's in line that's close to me is experiencing heavy sighing or rolling of the eyes or being really frustrated, I enjoy asking them if they're okay and if there's anything that I can do for them. And I will let them know that I acknowledge that they are feeling frustrated or that they appear or seem to be upset in the moment. And that's what being of service is, just paying attention, listening with your cells versus your ears, and being concerned and having so much kindness for somebody else and really genuinely being interested in what it is that they have to say and what it is that they are doing. That's what being of service to me means, and why that's so important, or why being of service is so critical in terms of building your coaching practice. It's like putting money in the bank already when you are acting that way, when you are being that way. And when you continue and stay on that path, that money that you are placing in the bank, energetically speaking, right, metaphorically speaking, comes back to us. But being of service is not worrying about or not even caring about the money. It's not caring about how you're going to pay your bills. It's not caring about whether or not you're going to accept or make an offer to a client. It's about caring about the individual and who they are and letting them know that they matter. Letting them know that they matter is what being of service to me means right now.
It resonates deeply with me. And at the same time, I want to put myself in my shoes again when I was getting scared about money. So I'm in this coaching game. I'm trying to get clients. And then somebody comes along and is like, hey, just be of service, give. Don't concern about yourself or the bank account or growing your practice. Just be there present for someone else. What has helped you in that process to whatever story is happening in your head, whatever conversation you start having about, oh my God, and I need to come back into presence with someone, and then also maybe the trust in I keep doing that and I know something will come back. We don't have evidence for that yet, right? So what do you say to someone in that position?
I've been blessed. I've turned the corner, and the labor that I have, the labor of love that I've put in this last year in terms of being of service. And Ankush, I love this sentence. He says, outgive the universe. And I really hold true to that. And that is something that I will repeat to myself when I have moments of weakness. So we still are challenged. I'm still challenged with, I haven't accepted anybody yet, or I haven't made an offer yet to somebody, or somebody hasn't asked me in the conversation. So what does it take to work with you? Because that's a crucial piece, and it's a wonderful feeling. And I really hope that everyone has that experience in their journey. But for me, when I think about it, if I'm having those moments of weakness, the first thing I rely upon or do is I turn over the burden, because it's a heavy burden. It does not feel good. It feels really icky. It feels uncomfortable. And so for me, my process is I turn it over to my higher power, which is God for me. I turn it over. He knows better in this instance, and he wants to take my burden away from me. So that's the first step, is I trust God to take the burden from me in terms of how I'm feeling. And I will repeat that over and over again. Or I will also repeat the phrase, I choose love, because if I'm experiencing fear, then that means love is not present. And I'm sure that you have very educated audience. We all who knows or who has come to understand that when fear is present, love is not. And when love is present, fear is not. And so to remind myself that I am everything that love is, or that I choose love, and make a conscious choice of choosing love. And I will repeat these things over and over again. It doesn't take a long time, but there is an energetic shift from fear into love when I begin those mantras. So that takes me off the ceiling or off the ledge when I'm in that panic mode. The other thing that I will do is I will remember that there has not been one time in my life, no matter how dark, no matter how dire, no matter how desperate a situation was, that I wasn't taken care of, that I didn't have what I needed when I needed it. And there have been some dark and dire and desperate situations in my life, as we all have in our entire lifetime, cumulatively speaking. And when I look back on my life, I remember that I have always been taken care of no matter what. And I'm still here and I'm breathing. And if I'm breathing, and that turns into the remembering that if I'm breathing, then I'm creating. And if I'm in this state of fear, then I'm going to create more experiences from that state of fear. And so I just dial myself back with those mantras, turning it over and remembering that I've always been taken care of. And that energetic shifts, and it shifts sooner than what it used to. Like it used to take days or weeks or out, and then when you stay in that practice, for me anyways, then it became days, and then it became hours. And now it becomes really minutes where I feel that energetic shift from fear into love.
Beautiful. I love where you were going with this. There's whatever you put out, you're gonna get that back, right? That's what I'm hearing. I sometimes call it just getting out of my own way when my mind tries to convince me to look a 10th time on my bank account and start worrying and think about what could I write today to get a client, right? And just drop out of that and get into like what would really serve someone. And I love what you said, like, I haven't seen a time in my life where I'm not being taken care of. For me, what came up when you shared that was I haven't seen one time in my life where actually giving something and sharing and helping someone hasn't returned in some way, not even from the person specifically, but in some way. So even the jobs that I did that were underpaid, I got something from them. And I think sometimes for me, that was an experience. I had to go through the underpaid jobs, also in my building of my coaching practice, to then arrive at this knowledge, or also at the state where I could look at different opportunities emerging and being able to discern like, oh, that's a worthwhile activity. And that might not be, right? Not out of a state of judgment, but just simply getting the experience in. What is it for you that now, when you look in the world, it's probably still online a lot, right? That you work with individuals online, or do you now work offline?
Define online for you. What do you mean by that?
Like online coaching, are you present on social media, or are you more? So I was curious, what are you looking for, or how are you looking into, let's say, social media, your Facebook wall, or if you're on a networking event, like how are you entering this space? And how does that maybe lead to connecting with potential clients?
Yeah. Well, that goes. So I'm not sure, for whoever's listening, our ego really likes to get fed typically. And when we're feeding our ego, our spirit isn't being fed, and neither is our bank account. I mean, sometimes the bank account may be fed, but so yes, I do have a presence, and I'm not very active, but when I am active, my focus is always about being of service. So even before I go ahead and type something, I'm checking in with myself to make sure that I'm not trying to make myself look like the best, or I've got it all under control, or I know exactly what I'm talking about. It's really, and sometimes I might get a little bit like that, right? So, cause we're human, so I'm human, and I might still I might want to preach. So I will put a pause. I really have worked hard to develop the practice of building a pause between what I'm about to do and actually doing it, or building a pause between what somebody says or doesn't say, or does not do, and my response to it. And before I share something, I ask. I ask my higher self, or I have a conversation in my mind that, is this going to be of service? Is this helpful? Please help me not to make this about me. And so that's the approach that I will enter a post with, or if I'm about to go into a networking meeting or a social setting, even, I will declare that this is not about me. Not that I'm not going to have fun, or not that I'm not going to, this is a serious conversation right now, but I'm still lively and effervescent, but it's not about me. And so I really try to focus on that before I enter and do anything. And if I could, I want to take a step back about being of service. And when we are in that state of fear, or that like we're a kinked up hose, that's the other thing too. If we are so tight and kinked up like a hose, we all know what happens to a kinked hose. The water can't flow to, through, and from us, or through it. And so if we're that stiff and tight, and we're not flexible, and we have neck pain and shoulder pain and we're so concerned, that's another image that I will give myself of just, okay, let's just unwind myself, relax like a hose in this hot sunny day, so that whatever needs to flow to me, through me, and from me can, and I'm not blocking anything. And then the other piece to that is being of service also means being of service to ourselves. And that's where that self-love piece comes from in. So if we are so worried or so bogged down or so frustrated that things aren't working right, that is the invitation to get out into nature, to go have fun, to remember what you used to do as a little child, whether that was swinging or riding your bike or hopscotch, skipping. It doesn't matter what it is, to get back in touch with something like that, to raise your vibration and your frequency and unhook yourself from that feeling of fear and clenched and tightness. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I offered that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pamela. That for me, there has been an enlightening in that conversation. I feel like I got a deeper understanding of service listening to you, and I'm sure everyone who listens to that themselves can see something in what you just shared. So I want to thank you, and I want to also offer anyone who wants to get a hold of you based on that conversation, they might resonate with what you share. How could someone do that?
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, if it's worldwide, if you are in another country, I'm located in the United States. And if you're in another country, you can certainly find me on WhatsApp, which is 860-682-3333. One of the greater ways also is just to find me through you, Maurice. We're connected on Facebook, and you can find me Pamela Horton there. And I do have a website, but we'll just keep it simple today. Let's just connect like regular humans. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to send you the link to the site itself. But 860-682-3333 is my number. And also you can find me through WhatsApp there. Or if you're on social media on Facebook, find me through Maurice.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you for taking the time and sharing that with us. I'm grateful that I can offer this to my group and maybe somebody else as well who is looking to grow their practice and get deeper into service. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I plan on sharing it with my email family and my social media family as well, so that people get to know you too, Maurice. Thank you so much for the opportunity to get to have this experience with you.
You're most welcome. Thank you.